Is Israel starving the Palestinians of Gaza? Are we doing that? Are we doing that intentionally? Are we doing it at all? That's what we're being accused of. That's what Israelis are being accused of, starving the people of Gaza. Is it true? Hi, this is Joel Rosenberg, the host of the weekly show on TBN, the Rosenberg Report, Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, and again at 10 p.m. on Saturday. And I got to tell you, the answer is heck no, absolutely not. But you might be forgiven if you saw an image like this. If you saw this image of an emaciated Palestinian child, 5 years old, being spread all over social media, all over the mainstream media. This is a Palestinian. This is a boy in Gaza. This is the evidence that people are using to say Israel is starving children. See, it's just not true. Okay? The person you're looking at right now is a little boy, 5 years old, a Palestinian from Gaza. He's not in Gaza right now. And he's not starving. He has a rare genetic disorder. His name is Osama al-Rakab. When Israel learned about his rare and dangerous condition, Israel evacuated Osama, this little boy, and got him and his family out of Gaza, out of harm's way, and flew them to Italy, where he's receiving medical treatment right now. Did you hear that in the mainstream media? Did you see that on social media? No, you didn't, probably, because people are lying about Israel. There's an avalanche of lies descending on Israel, and we are not only having to fight on multiple fronts militarily over the last year and a half since October 7th, 2023, we're dealing with lies. We're dealing with laziness at the minimum, right? People in the media who are spreading a photo like that and don't even ask, well, does Israel have an answer? Does Israel know who this person is? They just run with the Hamas propaganda. They run with the Iranian propaganda. They run with the propaganda of Iran, of Turkey, of other radical Islamists who hate Israel. And if they can't beat us militarily, they're going to try to destroy our reputation, destroy public support and even sympathy for Israelis who've been fighting for so long. But what we do on the Rosenberg Report is we tell you the truth. What we do at All Israel News, we tell you the truth. And the truth is we need to pray for little Osama al-Rakab dealing with this very difficult and potentially deadly and rare genetic disorder. Pray for him and his family. Pray that he gets the treatment that he needs in Italy. He wasn't getting it by Hamas doctors in those Hamas hospitals from the Hamas health ministry in Gaza, but Israel's making sure he gets that treatment in Italy, okay? There's another example. Here's a picture of an 18-month child, held by his 31-year-old mother, both Palestinians, both in Gaza, and he looks emaciated, because he is, but it's not because he's starving. That's what social media is saying. That's what the haters of Israel are saying. It's just not true. This photo is of a child that has another very difficult genetic disorder called cerebral palsy. And it's not starvation, it's this genetic disorder. And there are multiple examples of this, but I just want to say, and I want to be clear, there are people who hate Israel so much. Again, if they can't defeat us on the battlefield, they're going to try to ruin our reputation. And as has been famously said, right, a lie can move halfway across the world before the truth wakes up and puts its pants on in the morning, right? And that's why I do what I do, okay? That's why the Rosenberg Report exists, to tell you the truth about what's happening. Look, if Israel does something wrong or something bad or something you don't like, we'll tell you, okay? I'm not sugarcoating the challenges in my country. We've talked to you about the challenges of the judicial reform. We've talked to you about the challenges in this war. We've talked to you about all kinds of issues. And when Netanyahu's wrong, I'll say it. When President Trump is wrong, I'll say it. If President Biden was, when he was wrong, and that was many more times, I will say it. And I'll give opportunities for other people on the political spectrum to share their views. You've seen on the Rosenberg Report, the head of the opposition, Yair Lapid, criticizing Netanyahu and criticizing the way Netanyahu runs the war effort, right? I'm not hiding from his views. I want you to hear them. I'm not hiding from the most popular rival to Netanyahu, Naftali Bennett, the once and possibly future Prime Minister of Israel. If he's got criticisms of Netanyahu, and of course he does, he wants to replace Netanyahu, as he did a few years ago, so we bring him on the show, let him make his case. You don't have to agree with him. You don't have to even believe him. But I meet with these leaders. I met with Netanyahu. Then Governor Huckabee and I met with Netanyahu in December of 23, when the war was absolutely raging, just in the early months after the war started. We sat down with him privately for almost an hour, talking about what was going right and what was not going well in that war. And while I wasn't able to bring a camera into the room, I shared with you my perspective on what happened and my conversation, what I thought was happening with Netanyahu. My point is this. People can criticize Israel. Israel's not some sacred cow that you can't criticize. But don't slander us. Don't slander Israel. There's no, and you as an audience, I implore you, take a breath when you see a scurrilous attack and think, that might not be true. Remember when the Hamas led and organized and controlled Gaza Health Ministry said that Israel had bombed a hospital in Gaza in the early months of the war? Everybody went with that. Every major media outlet, starting with the New York Times, who did an 8-column front page, top of the fold, screaming headline, Israel bombs Palestinian hospital in Gaza. 100% not true. It only took a few hours for the information to start to come out, and even video to come out, that it was a Palestinian rocket that went up, misfired, and fell on the hospital. Okay? It only took a few hours to get that. All Israel News covered that correctly. The Rosenberg Report. We checked the facts. And by the way, a few hours after that, Israel actually released an intercepted radio communication between two Hamas operatives admitting that it was their rocket, not Israel's, that bombed the hospital. But even the New York Times, I say even, in case you still think the New York Times is telling the truth, sometimes it does. But it's amazing in the last year and a half of this war how much of the mainstream media will repeat lies or have an extreme bias against Israel, and it doesn't care, or it just doesn't check the facts, and it parrots the lies told by Hamas or Iran or some other radical Islamist terror group or state. And let's go back to this question. Is Israel starving the people of Gaza? That's the question we started with, right? And if people in Gaza are starving, is that Israel's policy? Okay, now, you might be saying, Joel, okay, fine. Those two pictures of those two boys, emaciated, gaunt, looking terribly sick and at risk of death, okay, maybe those weren't evidences of starvation, but everybody else is telling us Israel's starving. It's not true, okay? Let me give you an example. 94,000 trucks. 94,000 trucks. Take a moment, write that down. 94,000 trucks of food and other aid have been allowed to enter in Gaza, the Gaza Strip, over the last year and a half by Israel. Israel controls the borders of Gaza because we can't let weapons in. We can't let ammunition in. We can't let other terrorists in. We can't let bombs in. Right? So we have to monitor, not only are we fighting inside Gaza, we have to monitor and protect and guard those borders very carefully. So Israel has to let in food and other humanitarian aid. And guess what? Israel's let 94,000 trucks in since the beginning of the war. Enough food and other aid to last the 2 million people of Gaza 2 years. Is that starving the people of Gaza? No. Is it intentionally starving the people of Gaza? No. Is it the policy of Israel to starve the people of Gaza? No. There would be no Gazans anymore. It's been 18 months. If you want to starve people, they'd be dead by now. But that's not what's happening. Enormous amounts of aid are being allowed in by the Israeli military, by the Israeli government, because we care about the civilians of Gaza. Guess who doesn't care about the civilians of Gaza? That's Hamas. Hamas is the one trying to starve the people of Gaza or extract huge amounts of money from the people of Gaza. What do I mean? Hamas, over the last year and a half, has stolen $500 million worth of food, medical supplies, water, other aid. Sometimes they just use it for their own terrorists in those underground tunnels. Sometimes they use some of it to store away to cause suffering among Palestinians who everybody else thought got the aid, but actually Hamas had stolen it, had intercepted and stolen it. And in other cases, and in most of the cases actually, we now know that Hamas is selling the free aid that was coming in by a range of NGOs, non-governmental organizations, including the UN. The Hamas terrorists are stealing the aid and then selling it to the civilians of Gaza at highly marked up prices to make money from them so they can use it to buy weapons. They can use it to pay for their terrorists. So they can use that money to recruit new young people to be new terrorists when Israel has now killed more than 20,000 Hamas terror operatives. Okay? That's what's happening. Now, there's more good news. There's more good news. Over the last 2 months, a new nonprofit American humanitarian relief organization was started, called the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Okay? It happens to be run by a friend of mine. His name is Dr. Johnny Moore. He used to be the vice president of Liberty University, the largest evangelical Christian university in the world. He's somebody that I have taken all over the Middle East with me to go meet with President El-Sisi in Egypt, Mohammed bin Zayed, the president of the United Arab Emirates, Mohammed bin Salman, the crown prince and de facto king of Saudi Arabia, and elsewhere. We have met with these leaders, as well as Israeli leaders, and traveled all over the region. Johnny is a strong evangelical Christian. He cares for both Israeli Jews and Arabs. He cares for Palestinians. He cares for others in the region. I've seen it with my own eyes. And 2 months ago, he got appointed to be the head of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. My wife and I were just with him in Washington a few weeks ago, just before I came out to Denver, where I've been meeting with evangelical leaders and speaking and doing media and so forth. And we sat down with Johnny for about 90 minutes, and we talked to him, help us understand what is happening. Is there any good news? And he said, yeah, there's a lot of challenges, he said. Gaza's a mess. But the GHF, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, at that point had already delivered almost 90 million meals in 7 weeks, just over 6 weeks. 90 million meals. Okay? How is that happening? Well, because Israel is allowing this American nonprofit, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, to bring in food. Now, how does that work? We asked him, how's it working? Well, the GHF buys the food and then ships it, trucks it into 4 humanitarian relief distribution centers throughout Gaza. The people that are protecting anyone who would be coming to those facilities are American contractors, right? These are former U.S. military, former CIA. These are former special forces, U.S. special forces. These are all Americans who are protecting and running these 4 distribution centers for the GHF. But the people that actually deliver the food, distribute the food, the people who not operationally and are not structurally or in terms of security, but actually are doing the relief work, these are actually Palestinians, Gazan Palestinians, the local people who've been hired to serve their own people. And as I say, over the last 2 months, more than 90 million meals have been served. If Israel is trying to starve the people of Gaza, they would never let the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation operate. Okay? These are lies that are being told against Israel. They're wicked, they're sickening, And as followers of Jesus Christ, we're supposed to search for the truth. That's what we're encouraged in the book of Proverbs. Search for the truth. Seek for the truth. Search for it as you would for gold or silver. And then we're supposed to speak the truth. We're supposed to tell the truth. We're supposed to speak the truth in love. So look, are there challenges in Gaza? Absolutely. Hamas has created a hellish environment. The war's not over. I encourage you to pray for the full defeat of Hamas, that God would terrorize the terrorists to the point they lay down their arms and they surrender and they leave. Okay? They can go into exile. Israel's ready to send them into exile and let something new and better, much, much better emerge in Gaza. But don't believe these lies. Okay? So Israel's doing everything we can to defeat Hamas and feed the people of Gaza. That's the truth, and you need to know it, and you need to tell others. From Denver, this for a YouTube exclusive for the Rosenberg Report, this is Joel Rosenberg. Keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem and the people of Gaza.